Good stuff.
See you all. Bye.
I've got some questions for you later.
How are you doing?
Hello. Dr. Cotto. By the way, thank you for the help.
Oh, you're doing okay.
Yeah, all right. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize all of it.
I just gave my, yeah, I was doing it the other day. I was like,
It's probably disgusting.
Yeah.
just the other day, whenever like they had dry hollow clothes and somebody had been like,
Thank you, that's kind.
She said she's nervous. She hasn't started yet. Kenna today and she would get she was terrible. She was a year
Thank you. I'm sorry, stuck out. Thanks, sir.
Felicia, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Yes.
Okay, we'll bring the city council meeting to order. You'll be joining us for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Bobby, if you don't mind, sir.
What an honor. What an honor. Heavenly Father, we come to you in your Son's name, Jesus. We're just so grateful that we can gather together in this community. We're so thankful for those that live here, and serve this community with their heart, their passion. Pray that tonight as they make decisions, that they will use the wisdom that comes from you. Lord God, I pray that as the future begins to unfold, Lord God, that they would see with eyes of vision. And we'll give you all the glory. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On every Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. I think so. Citizens be heard? No citizens be heard. All right. Next thing will be item 4, consent agenda. Minutes from the, what is that, the June 30th city council workshop, and the July 9th city council meeting. Take a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second? I'll second. All in favor? Okay. Item 5, public hearing. City of Vernia City Council will hold a public hearing regarding ordinance number 091026-01, adoption of the 26-27 fiscal year budget. We're going to open the public meeting at 6:33. Staff, I think there's a presentation. Is there any way we can get the these little ones? I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm old and can't see. Thank you.
Of course. All right, thank you all. So we're gonna give a brief overview. I just want to say for your reminder, for you all's reminder, it's published this way in the newspaper, but tonight is the first of 2 hearings that we're going to have. The final hearing will be in the month of September. It's also the adoption hearing. In between tonight's hearing and the adoption hearing, we will have a workshop where we go through more particular details of the budget. So tonight is going to be a high-level overview. However, should we receive public comments, there's a section in tonight's public hearing for that, so you're free to speak. So we're going to start with budget at a glance. So we're talking about the budget in its entirety, made up of primarily the general fund, the enterprise fund, which is also known as the utility fund, and the MDD fund, or the municipal development fund. There are also a slew of minor funds, but we're going to primarily focus on those big 3 this evening. This year's projected budget is at just over $10.6 million in all funds revenue, which is including $2.5 million of new bond proceed. So if you take out the bond proceed, of course, because it's heavily restricted and for one particular thing, it would equate to just over $8.1 million. So for tonight's intents and purposes, we could really mainly focus on that number. Inside the general fund, which is going to be the biggest of the big 3 funds, is going to be just over $3.5 million in general fund revenue. Tonight, we present it to you with a $249,000 gap, essentially. It's untraditional that we would do it that way. Typically, I would be tasked with presenting you a balanced budget as an executive budget. But we're going to get into why it's unbalanced and the selections you have to make it balanced tonight. Let's see. Okay, so I kind of alluded to this to you earlier. We talked about the general fund specifically at just over $3.5 million in revenue. And the utility fund, we're projecting just over $2.3 million in revenue, and the MDD fund at just over $1 million in revenue. The current draft is inclusive of $3.7 million in expenditures and $3.5 in revenue. So that's the, just about $250,000 gap we spoke on previously, and it's a 7% gap if you want to percentize that. This is already inclusive of debt repayments associated with the brand new 2026 CO issuance, and of course all of our other debt issuances. So notably, that gap is essentially caused by the debt issuance, which makes sense, and that's why tonight we'll talk about the ways in which we repay our debt service and how to close the gap. Some other things that we'll want to touch on in the general fund is the necessity this year for new public safety vehicles, capital purchases, including 5 police vehicles and 1 police motorcycle. The only reason that this is called out on this slide, though we will talk about a slew of other things that are being requested in the general fund, it's probably one of the larger single changes associated with the general fund this year over last year when we talk about operational costs. Right side, it's also a one-time cost. Right? You buy them once and then you're done. So there is that. The tax rate discussion, which is going to come later this evening, is going to directly affect the final, proposition tonight, as we discussed. So a little bit more about the other requests inside the general fund or the investments, which are increasing the operational costs this year over last year. For parks and facilities, it's inclusive of automatic park gates, gutters for the park restroom, new walking trail lighting, and an extension of the asphalt driving path. In public safety, inclusive of 5 new police vehicles, 1 new police motorcycle, ballistic glass, and upgrades to the in-car system. For finance and administration, it's inclusive of a new finance software, council chamber upgrades, upgraded city hall security systems. Development services, it's inclusive of an upgraded permitting software. And like we said, we'll talk about it in the workshop, there are several other small things, pens, papers, filing cabinets, and all the things, but these are going to be kind of the heavy hitter items. All right, so we're going to switch over to the utility fund. This is kind of the next one down in the terms of the big 3. We discussed this earlier, projecting just over $2.3 million in revenue. It is currently balanced for you here tonight. I touched on that. The only one out of balance here tonight is the general fund. So projecting the same amount in expenditures. Probably the only notable change is that it is with the proposition of a 7% rate increase, in line with previous discussions we've had over the last 2 years together. The key staff requests in this fund are inclusive of 1 new laptop and construction of a new shop at the Public Works Yard. The budget also incorporates an upgraded service contract with San Antonio River Authority regarding our wastewater services. And this proposed rate adjustment is already built into the revenue assumption, so it is essentially how and why it is balanced. Next, we're going to talk about the third of the big three, the Municipal Development District Fund, currently balanced tonight at just over $1 million, meaning we're projecting the same in revenue as expenditures, just as it should be. The main changes this year would be funding to Chapter 377 eligible applications and initiatives, just meaning that you have been receiving more requests for that, so you have a budget allotment should you wish to spend that. Year-round community programming and events, continued professional services through a retail coach contract, new Christmas tree and dedicated storage facility for the tree, and additional smaller requests, which we'll talk about through the workshop. So we talked a little bit already about what's already baked into this draft tonight, which is really darn near everything, which is great, but it's inclusive of the 2026 CO obligation debt service increase, the 5 police vehicles, 1 motorcycle, and other one-time public safety expenditures, major technology upgrades in the Department of Finance, permitting, and security, utility operating assumptions, including the 7% water rate increase and sewer rate increase, new and expanded service contracts with regard to wastewater, and capital and facility improvements across the park, city hall, and public works, just as a recap. The key policy decisions ahead as we work towards the workshop and the final adoption night is going to be an evaluation of the property tax, which we will discuss here later this evening. Closing of the gap that we established, the $250,000, and the desired level of financial stability as we move forward. Another consideration is the utility rates as mentioned, a 7% projected increase in water and wastewater, which will affect the utility fund. One-time capital expenditures, meaning that we're going to confirm the timing and priority of the vehicles, technology, security, and park and facility improvements. Deciding on what type of reserves you'd like to have, and whether the budget should merely be balanced or be, forward-looking. And workshop refinement, which of course is our next step, where we will go into more detail and we can address it as a line item, should we wish to do so. So, wow, I can't read that, so there's no way you can read that. There we go. The preliminary budget reflects the real cost of maintaining services, meeting new debt obligations, and making targeted investments in Lorna's infrastructure, public safety, and operations. The workshop process is where we will determine the balance between affordability, service levels, and long-term financial stability. And with that, I give it back to you.
All right, public comments. Does anybody want to speak on this, or what's been proposed, or what was discussed? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question about park lighting. Are we having issues with the lighting at the park, or is it just because it's an old system, or?
Yeah, sure, yeah, so yes, it is old, and yes, we are having issues, so quite a few of them are burnt out. And so the big issue here was the cost was getting a little bit higher to get those commercial grade light bulbs, essentially, so we want to do like an LED system to take it well into the future.
Any other comments?
More question, and maybe this is too detailed for this meeting, but regarding the upgrade to the parking lot, there were grants obtained previously for that. Is that still a possible? I believe there were grants for upgrading that when it first.
Just let us know which upgrade you're referring to, because I don't think we're projecting
The gray
one.
gravel, where it used to be dirt, now it's.
Oh, the park.
I'm sorry, the parking lot.
There's
I'm so
no
sorry.
upgrade projected for the park parking lot, though. It's for the driving trail inside of the park.
Okay.
Like, it's like kind of, it is still dirt right now, right? And when you pull in off the parking lot and you go to
Gotcha.
the right, it's
Gotcha.
that area.
That's understood. And then secondarily, drainage is still, to me, seems an issue
Yeah.
regarding just getting that water from up there to all the way down to the little dip that goes into the parking lot. Is that something?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you for mentioning it. So it wasn't mentioned here tonight because it's part of our CO 24 bond proceeds, but that is a project that is well underway. And truly, I think we're waiting for one more easement, and then that one's gonna see the light of day finally. So that is a drainage treatment that's gonna come all the way through the school property, all the way up from 1346, through the park, all the way to San Antonio Road, where we're actually gonna lift that low water crossing out, it'll culvert under, and we've obtained easement from every property owner thereon to get it past TxDOT, and it's the little trail of, it's like Candyland. So anyways, thank you for bringing that up, it's definitely a priority, and luckily those funds are already accounted for. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm new to the area, so I just.
No, thank
no,
you,
thank
by
you.
all means, please, ask anything, it's
Alright.
open hour, so.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then we'll move on to closing the public hearing at 6:45. And item A5 is discussion and consideration action on this ordinance. However, no action will be taken since we're gonna have a workshop to really get into the fine details of it. So if nobody has a problem, we'll push past that item. Okay, and so then we'll go to item B. City of Livonia City Council will hold a public hearing regarding ordinance number 091026-02, adoption of the 2026 ad valorem tax rate, consistent with operations and maintenance and interest and sinking debt service tax rate. And we'll open the public hearing at 6:46. Staff?
Is it on camera? Just 1 second, we'll have it projected.
No worries.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. All right, so we're gonna, this follows the same structure. We'll be back on workshop on this, and we'll be back on adoption night on this. And so we're gonna get into kind of the nitty gritty. It's a little more in depth than the budget one, because there's a little more to talk about. But once again, savor your questions and I have them to answer for you. So we're gonna start with a couple graphs here. The one, we'll talk about the one on the right first, which is the Vernia tax graph. So right now, we're only gonna talk about us. And you can see years here from 2011 to our most recent tax year, 2026. Peruse the graph as you wish, but the one we're kind of going to talk about or compare tonight's conversation against, of course, is the most recent year, 2026, where the all-in total levy was 0.272538. That's inclusive of just over 12 cents, essentially, in INS. We'll get into tonight what that means, but that's called interest and sinking, also known as the debt service rate. So this is essentially funds that are reserved out of the property tax to pay back any debts owed by the city. Then the M&O, which is also known as the maintenance and operation, at just over 14 cents. This is your everyday expenditures, right? Whatever, the police cars, for example. All kinds of things come from this line item. Now you can see the historical record there. The only thing I will make note of here, and then like I said, should you have questions, let us know. But all the zeros that you're seeing from year 2019 to 2024 in the INS section does not mean that we didn't carry debt during those years. We have always carried debt. It just means that we were not utilizing an interest and sinking tax rate to pay that debt off, meaning we were using other funds to do so, primarily sales tax during those years. It's not traditional, and you wouldn't see that in most municipal budgets, which is why we kind of corrected for that in the year 2025. Now we'll talk a little bit about the chart to the left, and this is just kind of a sample chart. We've selected some cities for you to take a peek at. Some of them are here in Wilson County, so you're seeing Polk, Falls Cities, or Falls City, Stockdale, Livonia, Elmendorf, Floresville. And then we've got some that are a little further away, Lytle, Kennedy, Schertz, and Kern City. So you can see here it's kind of running the gamut, right? We're starting at 13 cents in Polk, and we're getting down to 61 cents in Kern City. As you can see here, this is just the most recent data from fiscal year 25-26. And this is just to kind of showcase to you that some cities are more, some cities are less. But in true theory with tax rates, it should be custom to your actual circumstances. So sometimes when we get asked that, why is so-and-so city this? Why is your city this? There's so many things that go into that, and a lot of it's about what you have available to you, what your needs are, what kind of land you're on, just what your resources are as a city. Okay. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Now we're going to talk about where we're going. So for fiscal year 24-25, the city adopted a modest increase, specifically 4 cents to the property tax rate primarily to ensure the city could meet its growing debt service obligations while continuing to maintain one of the region's comparatively low tax rates. The reason for the 2024 4-cent increase is the drainage bond that we discussed a few moments ago. In fiscal year 25-26, the city adopted its first meaningful increase to the tax rate in several years, recognizing that maintaining an extraordinarily low tax rate was no longer sufficient to support the city's growing operational needs and service demands. In fiscal year 26-27, as we consider this year's rate, the focus continues to be on establishing a financially sustainable balance between costs of providing essential city services, meeting our debt obligations, investing in our infrastructure as we move forward, and remaining responsible to our taxpayers. So we talked about a lot of different rates tonight. I know that could be a little confusing, so we're gonna get into a little bit of what that means and how it breaks out, because we're just seeing the total number, right? The total yield last year, 0.27 cents. So that's made up of the two things that we discussed, and this kind of black section right here where it says M&O, INS in total is depicting to you what's currently happening. So 13 cents essentially for the maintenance and operation, your everyday expenditures, 13 cents going towards the INS rate. The rate that was adopted last year, it's called the voter approval rate. And you're gonna see on this chart right here that there's a few different rates to talk about, right? One is called the no new revenue rate. This would be the rate that you could adopt that would give you the same exact amount of revenue that you had in the prior year. It doesn't always mean it's the same number, right? If I had 5,000 homes on the ground last year, and this year I have 5,500 homes on the ground, then I need a smaller rate to make the same amount of money, because I have more people paying, right? So that's the situation with the no new revenue rate. Usually it's actually gonna be a smaller rate than the prior year. The voter approval rate, this is sort of the most common rate that you're gonna hear of, because it's the rate that you are able to take as a municipality by right, essentially. It's kind of the default rate and the most standard rate. Now, that's usually the rate that accounts for what sometimes you hear at the state, you know, that you can move up by such and such percent, right? That's the rate that they're referencing. There is another rate that is specific to very small communities such as ours. It's called the de minimis rate. And it's essentially a rate that you're able to use when neither of those rates is going to be sufficient for what you need. Sometimes you see this in communities that are experiencing severe infrastructure problems, a serious lack in growth of their community, or whatever the problem may be. So this year, in the red section here, this breakdown where it says 0.05 in M&O and 0.20 in the INS for a total of 0.26 is once again referencing the voter approval rate only and specifically. I do want to note to you that, as you can see, the vast majority of the voter approval rate would be going to debt service, leaving only about 5.7 cents for maintenance and operations, okay? And this is because your debt service rate is calculated at the actual amount of debt you are carrying as a municipality. Since we took out a 2026 CO, most of it is gonna go there, should you adopt this rate. Okay? So one thing we may all know, right, perhaps, right, we're Wilson County residing residents, that the voter approval rate decreased, right? This year you're seeing it as 0.2624 and last year 0.2725. Also, valuations countywide decreased. Every municipality in the county experienced this from the tax office, okay? So we're gonna talk a little bit about why that was. Absolute exemptions for 2025 were about $400,000, and they are now just over $1.1 million for absolute exemptions claimed from property. Partial exemptions moved from $2 million to $9 million, refunds from $300 to $3,000, and new improvements or new personal property that was being taxed from $5 million to 0. And properties under protest this year are in significant number. We'll get into a little bit on the next slide about why this is, but essentially tax reform in the state of Texas. The impact on our personal city obligations is displayed in this chart here. You can see it moving from 2.7 to 2.6 for the voter approval, the INS or debt rate from 1.2 to 2.0, then, you know, thus leaving previously 1.4 in the M&O and now 5 cents. So although the city's debt service requirement increased, the other statutory factors drove the voter approval rate downward. The result at the voter approval rate, only the 5 cents would remain for the M&O, which is 61% less than an M&O yield compared to last year. So, like I said, essentially, we can talk in that, of this in great detail, but this is essentially because of property tax reform statewide, which some of you, may be aware of. It's good for our personal pocketbook. It's kind of not so good for the city, right? It makes it a little hard to pay the bills. So, there's, 2 ways to look at that. But fundamentally, a big part of it is that they've decreased the percentage that you can move the M&O up by, right? So it stipends your ability to do that. The debt still has to be paid, right? So we don't get a choice on the 0.20 number. That's the obligation for debt. We don't have to pay it this way. As I said, you could pay it in other ways, but this is the traditional way of doing so. There's a lot of text on here, so if we want to talk about any of it, we can. Okay, so we're going to talk about the options, the thing that we all saw published in the newspaper, right? It's kind of an options list. You can make multiple decisions. You could adopt the 0.27 rate, which is the rate that you have now, right? It's the exact same rate for this year. The only problem is that leaves us with the $250,000 deficit that we discussed earlier this evening. So it's not really viable, right? The budget wouldn't balance if you selected that option. You could select 0.37, which balances the budget with everything that we talked about in the initial conversations tonight, right? The new police cars, new debt obligations, absolutely anything, all the park upgrades, everything is inside of that 0.37, including the bond repayment. So there you go, right? That'll work out, 37. 4.5, you could do that. That would do all of those things and then also allow the city to save towards the future and produce additional infrastructure upgrades. Or you could do 5.3, which is the max yield, as we discussed, also known as the de minimis rate. And for clarity, you could pick anything in between, right? Anything in between the 0.27 and the 0.53. Let's talk a little bit about the impact. So we kind of produce this for you guys every year. These addresses are selected at random. They're of no meaning in particular. But we want to give the context here of what this might look like if you live here in the city of Vernia and what your bill might become. So for example, we've got right here on Hillcrest, we've got a property that's taxable value set at $210,000. The current tax under the 0.27 for the whole year is $574. That's what the city's getting. I suppose this is a good time to mention, you might be thinking, well, what the heck? My tax bill says $4,000, $5,000. Well, the city's getting $500 of that, right? That's why. Now, at the new proposed rate, let's say the balanced rate at 0.37, that would move to $780, or a monthly impact increase of $17 for the whole year, $205. Okay, so that's on 210. We're gonna skip past Mulberry, but what if you were on Mahogany Path and your property is valued at $472,000, meaning right now you're paying $1,200 just over. The new rate would be $1,700 or $460 more for the whole year, $38 more a month. That's just a rough schematic. If you have a question about your address, we're happy to answer it. So we're just kind of going to wrap this up in conclusion here. Like we discussed, the entire goal here of every year that we come upon y'all with this discussion is affordability today and sustainability tomorrow and balancing it. We can make it as affordable as we want today, but then everything in town could fall apart. Or we could jack the rate all the way up and everything in town would still fall apart if we don't do our job, right? So we do have to make sure that we're doing that. As we discussed tonight, it is not the staff's proposition to stay with the 0.27 because it's in deficit, meaning as we work through workshop, the staff has already cut the budget 2 times over as traditional before we bring it to you here tonight. But we would rely on the council to help us cut the remainder away if we were going with the 0.27 rate. The 0.37 rate is a balanced budget option, takes care of everything we talked about tonight, and the 0.45 rate would produce financial stability as we move forward, or a savings account for the city. So ultimately, that is the staff's recommendation to select one of those 2 options, and we are looking forward to our workshop together to establish which one that may be. And with that, I give it back to you.
All right, thank you. All right, public comments, questions.
Has there been any conversation about rezoning the city limits?
So, the way that you can rezone the city limits has changed over the years. Pretty much at this point, you have to request to be rezoned into the city. So, anybody outside, and it has to be continuous, so it has to be a property that butts up to our city limits. They basically have to request to be annexed. We don't have the right to go out and annex anymore. I don't know, again, I don't know if this size city ever had that ability, but larger cities could. That's gone away.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
So regarding the proposed .37, the hope is that that would be additional funds, bearing in mind that things happen, as you said, things break. Is there a system in place that says, okay, you can only spend a certain amount of that so that there is that cushion? Or is it just possible to use all of that cushion in a given fiscal year because it was necessary?
It's a great question. Yes, so, yes, this .37 number is baked into it with something called contingency line items, right? That are inside of all of the funds that we talked about, the big three funds. They each have a contingency line item. This 3.7 is baked in with the exact same contingency line item that we carried this year. So it worked this year, hopefully next year, right? That's the game plan. You could always put more. Basically, if you were to approve the .45, that's where it would all go, right? It would go into a contingency line item. If we had to use it because something happened, then there you go. If not, it's going into fund balance for when something inevitably will happen.
But to add on to that, yes, if city council or staff did not do their fiscal responsibility, they could just write checks and spend it. So it's important that we don't. And that's one of our things, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I saw you raise your hand, sir.
Seems to me like I was here about a year ago, we went through this same exercise. And-
Yes, sir. We gotta do it every year.
But it didn't, you didn't go up last year,
We did.
We did.
but not what you're proposing.
Actually, the same increment, yes.
So you're saying.
Here you go. Yes, there you go. It's just not the chart.
What's the,
We went from 17 cents to 27 cents, and right now we're looking from 27 to 37 cents per hundred.
okay.
So what we're faced with, and this may be outside the thing, is we're faced with some challenges with infrastructure and the aging infrastructure that needs to be caught up on that that should have been planned for and it wasn't, for whatever reason. I'm not pointing fingers, but we're playing a little bit of catch up right now. This council is.
So our sewer system is out of date and needs upgrading.
It's aging, put it that way. And we have to meet certain,
Pretty old, yeah.
and then exactly. The state comes in and says, hey, certain things have to be done that we're required to do for our wastewater, our water, and then obviously, the roads are a constant issue and having to maintain that kind of stuff, so.
Does anybody ever consider another option or something as far as paying for the wastewater or sewer? Like putting $1, $2, $5 fee on, and, until that's upgraded? And then sunset that where you don't pay it anymore. If you go up on the taxes, you'll never go down.
Well, I agree with you 100% on government does not like to ever give money back. And government likes to believe that it's their money. I can only speak for myself and the members up here, because I know we've had this conversation. This is y'all's money. We understand. So if we get to the city, which I foresee in several years, we'll be able to get to a point where a lot of that stuff's done. We can start lowering that tax rate and give the money back, because it's your money. It's not our money, and we know that. So, but to answer your other question about have we looked at that, and yes, when we get to the workshop, one of the things you saw was that the 7% increase in the water rate, which really is a utility fund, that's also wastewater. That's something that we look at, and yes, we could do an assessment on that, increase that to cover some of the costs and not do a tax rate increase. So there's ways to do it, but the utility fund is separate and apart from the general fund usually. At least that's where we finally got to. It wasn't all that way for a while. So we finally got it to the point where, quite honestly, the utilities are hard to make money on. We're just losing money for municipalities, right? So, but we've got it to the point where we can get the utility fund covering itself, and then with the increase, we're starting to see improvements done into the infrastructure in our utilities so that we can offset some of those costs. You know, ideally, we'd have no property tax in Laverne. Ideally, that's the way I look at it. I'd love to get back to zero. And actually, I saw that, I forget which city it was. There was a city that went to 0% property tax this year. They were able to do it. And you offset that because of sales tax and different kind of revenue sources, and you can get away from property tax. But again, you know, like we talked about, Lindsay brought up was, you see the big bill you pay on property tax. We're just a small portion of it. So even if we got to zero, you're still paying ISD, you're still paying county, you know, so there's still a lot of state, so there's still a lot of property tax to be there. But ideally, you know, we would be able to get to a zero, and that's possible. It's just gonna take some time.
I did have a question, maybe I missed it. So the $250,000 budget deficit that we have, where is that coming from? Which departments? If you said the utilities were kind of taking care of themselves, but where's the $250,000 deficit coming from?
Yeah, so if you saw and I think there's a first proposal that we talked about, and we're going back, to be honest with you. But we're going back to the first public hearing. If you see right there, it's the general fund that is currently underfunded, if you would, based off the needs. And I believe that's what that slide showed. Well, am I correct? That utilities balance. So we're balanced with the 7% increase. We are balanced.
Right, okay.
So it's the general fund. So it's again, when you talk about public safety and law enforcement, our police department, or
So
parks.
it's not the infrastructure of the utilities?
It's not the budgeted part of the utility. Now, infrastructure could be different. So
Okay.
we have, you know, if we have something done at the wastewater treatment plant because it collapses, that fund is not going to be able to cover that. So we would have to go through the general fund to justify that.
Thank you.
Are there any type of grants or anything available to?
I will tell you this, that the staff is very good at trying to find grants and putting out for grants. We've been lucky, the police department also great job of doing grants. When there's a grant available, they are signing up for it, trying to get that money to help offset our costs.
Well, all these new homes that are coming in, are they in this subdivision over here behind AGB? That's in the city, right?
Yes, sir, that is.
So they're gonna be, impacting the wastewater.
So, again, I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get off topic per the agenda, and we can talk offline, but that is handled a little bit differently, and we're working very hard with the developers to make sure that the impact is not felt by our current residents and the new residents that are purchasing homes, and the developers are getting the bulk of that impact, which ultimately, at the end of the day, once we start getting those residents in here, the tax stream will increase, and Lindsay pointed that out, as we split the pie, if you would, more ways, our slices become smaller. And that's how we'll be able to see a good growth with our budget and possibly come down with our tax rates. And that's ultimately the goal. Okay? Is there anything else? All right. So I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:09. And again, this is, it is a discussion and consider action item, but however, we'll be adding this to the workshop also. We'll be discussing this at the workshop. Okay, item 6, discussion only, discussion regarding the monthly meter replacement rate.
Yeah.
And I think it's your time to shine.
Yeah. Well, so as you guys have seen, Core Main has been out, it's installing meters, and we have gotten all of the residential ones done now. All that's left is those commercial ones. We were able to get the meters that were back ordered, that weren't supposed to be here till September, October. They had got them expedited shipped, so we did get those in. So while they are here, we are having them finish all of those. And there's a total of 54 meters in the entire city left to be replaced.
And that's commercial and residential?
That's all, it's only commercial left. They finished all the
Okay,
residential
awesome.
stuff.
Yay, we're excited to hear.
So it's like next
that.
month it should be done.
Did we replace all of the residential meters?
So within the last 5 years since we started doing this,
Okay,
everything
okay. I was
has
gonna
been
say,
replaced.
Good.
Don't remember. Within the last 5 years, gotcha.
I would say all of them haven't been done last week, but yeah.
I was,
Anybody have any questions on that? That's good. We're excited about that. All right, item 7, resolutions. Discuss and consider action on resolution numbers 08132601 regarding the contract with animal services, for animal services with Hearts to Homes Rescue. Lindsay, if you'd like to brief us on that one.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, ladies. Yeah, so this is in collaboration with Chief and I, but I'll take a stab at it. We were dissatisfied slightly with our prior animal control contract, which I think y'all were aware of. And so we've been really blessed to find a new vendor. It's been a long 6 months of looking for one. It's a little tough because traditionally counties would offer a countywide animal care center or control services, and this county does not. So we do primarily rely on nonprofit vendors, and we're really hopeful for this new contract. And it's gonna cover, we actually were able to base the contract on the same grounds as our prior one, meaning that they're gonna have approximately 2 spots for us, which is well in line. We did some math last year, we had 12 animal complaints that we needed assistance with. So at any given time, about 2 spots. Should we ever receive a really big call, like, oh my gosh, there's 14 loose dogs or something, we'll have to pay per animal, and that's covered in here. The one change that we're gonna make this year is we really want to pay in installments, because this is a first-time vendor for the city. It's the same contractual amount, $10,000, but paid in 4 installments. That way, should we encounter any non-compliance with the contract, we haven't paid the whole thing yet. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please let us know.
So I have a couple questions. One, and this is gonna go to you, Chief. One, after reading the contract, it brought up a couple issues. One, you're responsible for dealing with any aggressive animals and transporting. One, do we have the capability to do that? Because that's important. I mean, do we have the equipment? Do we have the cage that?
Yes, sir, we did purchase some of that equipment, gloves, pole, the snare pole, those kind of things, here a few months back. Several different sizes depending on the size of the animal also, yes, sir.
Okay.
We have not received training in that yet, because we haven't really come across anything where we couldn't handle, with the pole, obviously. But this, Brandy, that's, part of this, new contract. She is a certified animal control officer. She also has a response vehicle that can hold multiple animals. That's, I believe she received from another vendor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is one where, in the past contract, Mayor, Council, we had to take the animal to Floresville and drop them off. Just wasn't applicable putting animals in our police cars, things like that. So I believe, and I feel a little more confident that since they have a response vehicle, they will come out midnight, middle of the night, if we have something, just for example, an arrest and they have an animal by chance in the vehicle, they will respond to take care of that for us. So we vetted them pretty well, Lindsay and I. We feel like this is an opportunity that may have good results. And I believe the vendor is within 10 minutes range of responding to call outs.
And then it brings up the fact that we're required to scan for microchips. Do we have that equipment?
Yes, sir, we have 2 of them.
Okay, and, check availability, and so if we scan the animal and we can find the resident, are we notifying the resident before we're impounding this animal?
We are, yes.
Okay.
Generally, it kind of starts with the Facebook and the neighbors, things of that nature, but generally, I think we've only had 1 animal that we've never been able to locate an owner, but it was adopted out.
Okay.
It worked out.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Can I volunteer my dog? I'm just kidding. I love my dogs. Anybody else have any comments, concerns? All right, I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 081326-01 regarding the contract for animal services parts to Harlem Rescue.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 7B, discussing and consider action on resolution number 08132602 regarding the contract for inspection services.
So yeah, these are mostly related to the new home developments as you're seeing, and just making sure that we are adequately getting inspections done routinely and making sure that the infrastructure the city is taking at the end of it will be adequately inspected, and we are confident that it will be in good shape when it's turned over to us to not be a long-term burden. Josh Mayer has worked with Converse and has done plenty of years of experience, has offered to do this on like an as-needed service, so we have added in the impact fees adopted earlier this year, a civil inspection fee. So what would happen is we will charge the developer, they'll pay the civil inspection fee, which will cover the fees we would pay him to provide the inspection. And that just provides someone who's available to the developer and able to do the inspections a lot more frequently than me and Lindsay, who had previously been doing it, just because we can't go out there the second they call us at the drop of a hat, and they normally don't want to leave it open very long.
Right. Is this in conjunction with our current inspectors?
So, yes, this will just be for the, like, civil public infrastructure that the city will take over, your roads, drainage, water, wastewater. Our current inspectors, Bureau Veritas, they only do, like, the on-site, like, the lot stuff that's, like, your house, structural, stuff like that. So this is just an additional inspection that previously has kind of been done by the city, but I will tell you, not really adequately done in
Thank you,
often cases.
I was gonna ask
So-
if Josh does that type of inspection also.
So, I don't know, do you do any work? You can.
Are you requesting specifically a building inspection?
So, when someone pulls a permit to do electrical in their barn or their house, do you do that, and can you do that inspection also?
No, that's more of a slab in, this is more of a slab out opportunity,
Okay.
so, now, obviously, one of the things that I'm able to sort of provide is, really good context and assistance with pretty much anything that a municipal government might need. So if it's something that, we get asked to look at, we can really help with that as well, but, I don't have anybody that works for me currently, and I'm also not licensed to do any of that, but, we could help in any way. Think of me real quick, almost as like a 15-year government employee that knows pretty much every other government employee. So if we need to assist in any way, we absolutely can. So we're definitely can put you in the right contact with the right people.
Honestly, I think the big thing would just be catching when those inspectors need to be done. The inspectors are really good when they go out, it's just getting the inspectors called in and everything at the right time. And I think with him being there in a constant presence, it will definitely make sure that the builders and everything are making sure that's done, because they'll know someone's gonna kind of catch me if I don't, so.
Yeah, we could discuss whether or not they're doing that.
We can talk about that offline. As someone who's used them, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
No, I just had a question. So this is not replacing Bureau Veritas, it's just in addition to, so that was my only, okay.
I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 081326-02 regarding the contract for inspection services.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and at this time, the city council of the city of Vernia reserves the right to adjourn into executive session in accordance with Texas Meetings Act to deliberate. I'm not gonna read it all, but we're going into executive session. I just don't read it. At 7:18.